Government Shutdown Theater is playing again. Although this time there is a little bit less theater and a little bit more substance to it in the sense that Russ Vought has suggested that permanent layoffs could result in a temporary government shutdown. John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, was asked about the prospects of said shutdown by Bret Baier, and he said this.
Well, I mean, it's up to them. And I don't know.
Above 50%.
Well, if the Democrats are coming out and saying flatly, we will vote repeatedly, and they will have to because we will force them to vote because the bill is sitting in the Senate to keep the government or to shut the government down, not to fund the government. It's up to them. The ball is in their court, and this is politics for them, nothing more, nothing less.
Mm-hmm. So they're going to be the votes because Thune's going to push them. House has already passed a CR. But what John Thune said sort of gives lie to what Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, said. Imagine that, Hakeem Jeffries not telling the truth. I'm stunned. Here's what he had to say. It's just trying to protect the health care for Americans. That's not really true. And the Senate has abdicated. And as you just heard from Senate Majority Leader Thune, that's not true either.
In the conversation, we've made clear that the Republicans have a position, and that position is that they're uninterested in addressing the health care needs of the American people, and that our position with respect to the Affordable Care Act tax credits is a permanent extension. And we're waiting to hear back from Republicans after that meeting as to whether they are willing to actually sit down over the next 30 hours or so and find a bipartisan path forward. House Republicans are on vacation right now. House Democrats are here, ready to do the work of the American people. Senate Democrats and even Senate Republicans are here in the Capitol. And it appears, at least to me, that a decision has been made by House Republican leaders, perhaps blessed by the administration, to shut the government down. Why did they cancel votes? Why are they on vacation spread out across the country and the world when we're on the brink of a government shutdown?
So leaders. Well, I guess he was talking about the House, so my mistake there. But well, the answer to that is pretty simple, because the House already passed a continuing resolution. And now the Senate is going to give Senate Democrats the same opportunity that you chose to pass on. And what are we talking about, really? Is it about health care for the American people? Not exactly. Speaker Johnson, not on vacation, had this to say.
And they want to give new benefits to illegal aliens. We eliminated that in our big, beautiful bill. They want to bring it back. They want to prop up NPR and PBS. They want $500 million. That's their demand in their counteroffer, to prop up the Corporation for Public Broadcasting again. We're not doing that. Left-leaning media outlets don't need to be funded by taxpayers. They want to spend $1.5 trillion on a simple 7-week stopgap funding measure so our appropriators can get back to the job of just funding the government. And it's really a crazy thing to watch.
For more on this, pleased to be joined by Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, Republican, of course. Senator Johnson, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Morning, Dan. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, you too. So what do you anticipate occurs by, the stroke of midnight tonight?
Well, I think Speaker Johnson made the main point there. The Democrats' opening offer was, okay, we'll keep the government open. Initially, it's 4 weeks. Now I guess they're saying 7 weeks. And all we're asking in exchange is just spend another $1.5 trillion when we're $37 trillion. So that's reasonable. Now they seem to be backtracking, saying all they're really concerned about is let's make sure that these Obamacare enhanced subsidies, temporary because of COVID, let's make those permanent. When they had a multiple number of chances, when they were in the majority, to make those permanent. They didn't. Again, this was temporary. And the problem with that, Dan, is those temporary COVID Obamacare subsidy enhancements, that took many millions of people on the individual exchanges completely from participating with any dollars in these changes. So we've got now 20.5 million people on the Obamacare exchanges. 12 million of them never made a claim. Now, that's not completely unusual that people have insurance and don't make a claim because they're healthy, but 12 million out of 20.5, I've seen estimates thinking that at least 6 million of these people don't even know they have insurance because it's been documented. They're unscrupulous agents and brokers who are signing people up because all they need is a name and a birth date.
Yeah.
They're collecting commission. The insurance companies get tens of billions of dollars paid into their company for policies that people don't even know they have. So this is a massive level of fraud. And you see exactly what happens is, again, Democrats temporarily gave a COVID relief enhancement, took people from participating in the Obamacare. So there's no skin in the game. There's no control of the process, and nobody is controlling the process. So if you want to extend these temporary COVID enhancements, you want to perpetuate that massive fraud. American taxpayers paying tens of millions of dollars per year into insurance companies for policies people don't even know they have. That's what Democrats want us to do.
Well, and of course, we know this this at the state level with a combined state and federal program called Medicaid, of which you're obviously familiar. The same things. You always have Democrats impeding an auditing of the Medicaid rolls at the state level, in states like Illinois, we're very familiar, because they don't want anybody removed who shouldn't be on the rolls because, dependency provides political support. I mean, I can only assume, because otherwise, why would you want somebody to access a benefit they're not entitled to and imperil the quality of the benefit, that same benefit, for someone who is entitled to it, which is exactly what happens.
By the way, what's most galling about this is the reason insurance costs so much on the individual exchanges is because the faulty design of Obamacare. So we all wanted to cover people with pre-existing conditions. We had state high-risk pools. They worked. Could have been tweaked a little bit, and we could have covered everybody with pre-existing conditions with a small, unnoticeable percentage on everybody's insurance policy. That's how high-risk pools were originally funded. They got rid of those. They changed it now. So then Obamacare exchanges doubled, tripled, quadrupled the cost of insurance on these individual exchanges because they made those individuals. Back then, it was 5 million people is how many people originally signed up for those Obamacare exchanges. They had to carry the full cost burden of covering people with pre-existing conditions. Prior to the pandemic, there were about 9 million people on these exchanges. With the enhanced subsidies, all of a sudden that shot from 9 million to over 20 million. And again, 12 million never even made claims. How many of those didn't even know they have policies? So, I mean, those are the facts, and Democrats don't like facts.
And and just going back to the larger issue of these quote unquote shutdowns, which we've all become relatively inured to. I mean, part of the reason that both sides have done it, but really more so the Democrats, is because it provides another bite at the apple to spend beyond our means. That was sort of what you were intimating earlier. And you introduced legislation to address that. That's sort of elegant in its simplicity. And I wanted to give you a chance to explain it.
Yeah, last night we voted. Unfortunately, got voted down with Republican appropriators also voting no. But a simple bill, Eliminate Shutdowns Act. And all it would have done is for any department or all of government that doesn't have an appropriation made for it, it just creates a 14-day rolling continuing appropriation. There's no drama, no turmoil. It gives appropriators, as much time as they need to find areas of agreement, pass the appropriations. Do it, before the end of the fiscal year, 2 weeks in, 4 weeks in, whatever. It doesn't diminish the appropriator power, but it takes away the pressure that is created by the uniparty, prior to Thanksgiving break or Christmas break, to just pass something and get out of town and go home, right? And that's one of the reasons we've gone from $14 trillion to $37 trillion in debt since I arrived in 2011. By the way, it doesn't work in terms of passing appropriation bills. In the 15 years I've been here, we should have passed 180 appropriation bills. We've passed 6 prior to the end of the fiscal year. 6. That's a 96.7% failure rate. And the appropriators are defending that. So, again, unfortunately, we had even Republican appropriators vote no, basically voting yes to continue the chaos and continue the political gamesmanship with people's lives. It's literally disgusting. I can't tell you how PO'd I am this morning that even Republican appropriators joined every Democrat in voting down a bill that would have eliminated shutdowns for all time. We'd never have this conversation. We'd never have to do an interview like this before. We'd do an interview on more more productive things.
Well, that's. I mean, this is the endemic problem, right? Is very few people, yourself, Rand Paul, Mike Lee. I mean, you can name them almost on one hand, maybe two hands at the most. Members of Congress are really serious about reducing the size and scope of government. And if more people were serious, including the president, frankly, we'd be having the conversation that Milei started his administration with in Argentina, which is what are the things that government should be doing and what are the things it shouldn't be doing or it's shown itself to be completely incompetent in doing. And we're going to really pare back what the government does to the things that are core deliverables. And the things that are not core deliverables or it's not best positioned to deliver, we're not going to do anymore and have that sort of philosophical conversation that drives to some specific sizable elimination of a reduction in the size and scope and expense of government. But we just don't have the critical mass in D.C., do we?
No, fiscal conservatives, we are vastly outnumbered, and largely because the American public loves their benefits from the federal government.
Yeah. And
they're always told, well, somebody else is going to pay for those things. We're going to make the rich pay their fair share, and they're happy to go along with that fantasy. So the result is, again, we're $37 trillion in debt. Your dollar has devalued dramatically. From 1998, your dollar you held in 1998 is only worth 51 cents.
Mm-hmm.
The dollar you held as recently as 2019 is only worth 80 cents. That's the chronic debt crisis we've been in because of this massive deficit spending, devaluing of the dollar, the silent tax inflation, and there's no end in sight. I mean, over the next 10 years, the current CBO numbers say we'll have $26.4 trillion in total deficits over the next 4 years. That's an average deficit of $2.6 trillion a year. And unfortunately, most people are just whistling by the graveyard. And the general attitude is, I've heard Mitch McConnell apparently said, show me a member of Congress who ever lost the election because they spent too much money. That is the prevailing attitude, but mainly because there's not public pressure to reduce spending. There's a lot of public pressure to keep the spigots open, keep giving me my benefit.
Yeah. One aspect of this possible quote-unquote shutdown I mentioned is that you would have permanent layoffs, even if there's a temporary shutdown. There's also a suggestion that there's a quote-unquote federal workforce revolt with upwards of 100,000 federal workers ready to resign. It's what's being characterized as potentially the biggest walkout in U.S. history. I mean, that would be a happy occurrence, generally speaking. But what is your handle on what would happen to the aggregate number of government personnel if there is a shutdown and anything associated with this potential quote unquote mass walkout if 100,000 people out of 2 million is a mass walkout?
Well, in the private sector, when a company goes bankrupt, everybody loses their jobs, and then they have to go out to the other private sector companies and get a job someplace else. Happens all the time. I mean, there's a great deal of churn within the private sector. Why should government employees be immune from that? I mean, they're working for a bankrupt entity, let's face it. Now, it's not totally bankrupt because the federal government has all the power to extract, people's hard-earned, the fruits of their hard-earned labor in taxation. So, again, I would take Russ' vote seriously in terms of his threats if I were Hakeem Jeffrey and Chuck Schumer. And again, that's what happens in the private sector. I don't see any reason why public sector employees should be immune from the same basic forces.
Neither do I. Senator Ron Johnson, Republican senator from Wisconsin. Senator Johnson, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too. And Senator Johnson joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, my name is Dr. Michael Huber. During cold and flu season, a nearby cough or sneeze can trigger a familiar dread, that helpless feeling of being defenseless against an invisible viral threat. But what if you could change the narrative? What if you could fortify your body